It was a quiet evening in New York City, the kind of calm that felt almost unnatural for such a bustling metropolis. The streets were alive with their usual hum, cars honking, people chatting, and the distant rumble of subway trains. But there was something different about the air that night. It wasn't just the chill or the faint smell of rain hanging over the city. It was an unexplainable feeling, as if the universe itself had paused to take a breath. People walking home from work glanced up at the sky, noticing something strange. A shimmer, faint but growing brighter with each passing second. At first, many thought it was some sort of atmospheric phenomenon, maybe the northern lights making an unexpected appearance so far south. Others assumed it was a trick of the light, perhaps reflections from nearby skyscrapers or even a drone show gone wrong. But as the glow intensified, spreading across the heavens like spilled ink on a canvas, doubt crept into everyone's minds. This wasn't normal. Whatever was happening above them was beyond anything anyone had ever seen before. The shimmer soon gave way to a crackling sound, soft at first, but quickly growing louder. It wasn't thunder. It didn't echo or fade away. Instead, it sounded more like static electricity building up, charging the very air around them. Then, without warning, the sky seemed to split open. A jagged line appeared high above the city, glowing white-hot and pulsating with energy. People stopped what they were doing, their jaws dropping as they stared upward. Some dropped their bags, or phones, too stunned to care. Children pointed excitedly while parents pulled them close, unsure whether this was something beautiful or terrifying. Through the rift came shapes, dark silhouettes against the stars. At first glance, they looked like clouds, but clouds didn't move like that. They drifted slowly yet deliberately, exuding a sense of purpose. As they descended lower, details began to emerge. These weren't natural formations, they were ships, massive, sleek vessels unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Each one stretched miles long, their surfaces gleaming with metallic hues that shifted under the dim city lights. Towering spires jutted out from their tops, giving them an almost cathedral-like appearance. They loomed overhead, casting shadows over the streets below. Panic erupted almost instantly. People screamed, scattering in all directions as fear took hold. Cars screeched to a halt, drivers abandoning their vehicles in sheer terror. Cell phones were whipped out, capturing shaky videos of the scene unfolding above. Social media feeds exploded within seconds. Hashtags like "aliens over NYC" trending worldwide. No one knew what to do. Was this an invasion? Were these ships here to destroy Earth? Or was it something else entirely? Governments scrambled to respond. Military jets roared into the sky, circling the mysterious vessels cautiously. Pilots radioed back reports, describing the ships as impossibly advanced, their technology far beyond human comprehension. Yet, despite their imposing presence, the ships didn't attack. They simply floated there, silent and still, radiating power and mystery. Their lack of aggression only deepened the confusion. If they weren't here to invade, then why had they come? Deep within one of those massive ships, a council of alien beings gathered around a holographic display. They weren't conquerors or invaders, at least not intentionally. In fact, they were refugees fleeing a threat far greater than anything humanity could imagine. Their species, known as the Vrillians, hailed from a distant galaxy where they had lived peacefully for centuries. That peace had been shattered when an unstoppable force called the Voidborn emerged, consuming entire planets in its wake. Desperate to survive, the Vrillians had fled aboard their fleet of star destroyers, seeking refuge wherever they could find it. Now, hovering above Earth, they faced a new dilemma. How would these primitive humans react to their arrival? The Vrillians had observed Earth for years, studying its inhabitants through telescopes and probes. From what they'd seen, humans were a volatile species, capable of incredible kindness, but also devastating cruelty. Would they welcome the Vrillians with open arms, or would they see them as a threat and attempt to destroy them? The council debated fiercely, their voices echoing through the chamber. Commander Zixalar, the leader of the expedition, listened, intently, weighing every argument carefully. "We cannot risk another confrontation," said one elder, his voice trembling with anxiety. "If we provoke them, they may retaliate. We are already weakened from our escape." "But we have no choice," countered another. "Our resources are dwindling. If we do not secure aid soon, we will perish anyway." Zixlar raised a hand, silencing the room. He understood both sides of the debate, but he also knew they couldn't afford to hesitate any longer. Earth was their last hope. Taking a deep breath, he made a decision. "We will send emissaries," he declared. "They must know we mean no harm. Perhaps they will help us." Back on Earth, chaos continued to reign. News outlets broadcast live footage of the ships, experts speculating wildly about their origins and intentions. Conspiracy theorists claimed vindication, shouting about cover-ups and government secrets. Religious leaders called for prayer, urging their followers to remain calm in the face of divine intervention or judgment. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens huddled together, sharing theories and fears in equal measure. In Washington, D.C., leaders convened for an emergency meeting. President Ramirez of the United States stood at the head of the table, his expression grim. "This changes everything," he said, addressing the assembled delegates. "Whatever these things are, they're not from our world, and now we need answers." Dr. Elias Carter, a renowned astrophysicist, was summoned to provide insight. For decades, he had studied anomalies in space, searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. Now his expertise was needed more than ever. Standing before the council, he presented his findings. "These ships aren't here to invade," he explained, pointing to data collected by satellites. "They're running from something big." His words sparked murmurs of disbelief, but before anyone could argue further, something extraordinary happened. A message flooded into the minds of everyone on Earth simultaneously. It wasn't spoken aloud or transmitted via radio waves. It simply was, as if planted directly into their thoughts. The message was simple yet profound. "Help us." The transmission sent shockwaves through humanity. Questions raced through everyone's minds. Who were these beings? What danger pursued them? And most importantly, could Earth really help them? For the first time in history, humanity found itself standing on the brink of an interstellar alliance, or conflict. The choices made in the coming days would shape not only Earth's future, but potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. As the initial shock wore off, people began to process what they had witnessed. Families gathered around televisions, watching endless streams of analysis and commentary. Scientists worked tirelessly, trying to decipher the technology behind the ships. Governments mobilized forces, preparing for the worst-case scenario. Yet amidst the uncertainty, a glimmer of hope emerged. Maybe, just maybe, humanity wasn't alone in the universe after all. And perhaps together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The days following the arrival of the Star Destroyers were a whirlwind of emotions, theories, and chaos. Humanity had been thrust into an unprecedented situation, one that no amount of preparation or science fiction could have fully equipped them for. The world was divided. Some people saw hope in the aliens' plea for help, while others viewed their presence as a threat to humanity's survival. Social media became a battleground of opinions, with hashtags like #WelcomeAliens and #EarthFirst trending side by side. News outlets ran non-stop coverage, replaying footage of the massive ships hovering ominously above cities and broadcasting interviews with experts who seemed just as confused as everyone else. Dr. Elias Carter had become an overnight celebrity. His calm demeanor and authoritative voice reassured many during the initial panic. But now he faced mounting pressure to provide concrete answers. Governments around the globe summoned him for briefings, demanding explanations about the nature of the alien technology and the mysterious void-born mentioned in the telepathic message. Despite his expertise, even Dr. Carter admitted there were gaps in his knowledge. "We're dealing with something far beyond our understanding," he told reporters during a press conference. "But if we work together, and I mean all of us, we might stand a chance." While governments debated treaties and resource allocations, ordinary citizens found themselves grappling with their own fears and hopes. In small towns and big cities alike, people gathered in parks, cafes, and community centers to discuss what this meant for the future. For some, it was exhilarating to think that humans weren't alone in the universe. Children drew pictures of the star destroyers and dreamed of meeting the beings aboard them. Others, however, couldn't shake the feeling of dread. What if these aliens weren't telling the truth? What if they were using fear of the Voidborn as a cover for their real intentions? Amidst all the uncertainty, one group stood out: amateur astronomers and tech enthusiasts. These individuals took matters into their own hands, setting up makeshift observation posts and hacking into satellite feeds to gather more information about the ships. Using telescopes, drones, and even cell phone cameras, they documented every detail they could capture. Their findings were shared online, creating a decentralized network of citizen scientists working tirelessly to piece together the puzzle. One such enthusiast, a college student named Leo Chang, uploaded a video showing faint energy waves emanating from the ships. "It's like they're alive," he said in the clip, which quickly went viral. His words sparked debates among professionals and amateurs alike, further fueling humanity's collective curiosity. As humanity struggled to make sense of the situation, the Vrillians aboard the Star Destroyers faced challenges of their own. Commander Zixler paced anxiously through the corridors of his flagship, his elongated limbs moving with restless energy. He had volunteered to lead the mission to Earth, knowing full well the risks involved. Now, as he watched holographic projections of human reactions, some welcoming, others hostile, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. His people were counting on him to secure their safety, but how could he convince these volatile creatures to trust them? Zixlar called a meeting with his advisors, a diverse group of Vrillian specialists ranging from linguists to engineers. Together, they reviewed the data collected from Earth's broadcasts and transmissions. "Their species is young," observed Tilvra, the chief linguist. "They communicate primarily through spoken language and visual symbols, but their emotional responses are unpredictable." She hesitated before adding, "And yet, they show remarkable adaptability. Look at how quickly they've organized themselves." Another advisor, Kinross, chimed in. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they innovate rapidly. If we can establish cooperation, they may prove valuable allies." Zixlar nodded thoughtfully. "Then we must act soon. Time is not on our side." After a moment of silence, he made a bold decision. "Prepare a delegation. We will descend to their surface and speak directly with their leaders." The announcement sent ripples through the crew. Many feared stepping foot on Earth would be too dangerous. But Zixlar remained resolute. "We cannot afford to wait," he insisted. "If we fail to gain their trust, both our peoples will suffer." Back on Earth, anticipation reached a fever pitch when news broke that the aliens intended to send emissaries. Military forces scrambled to prepare landing zones, while scientists and diplomats worked around the clock to devise protocols for first contact. Speculation ran rampant about what the aliens would look like. Would they resemble humans? Or would they be completely alien, with forms and features beyond comprehension? When the day finally arrived, the chosen location was Central Park, its sprawling greenery providing a neutral and symbolic backdrop for the historic meeting. Crowds gathered behind barricades, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the descending craft. Reporters jostled for position, microphones and cameras, ready to capture every second. Above them, one of the smaller Star Destroyers detached itself from the fleet, gliding smoothly toward the designated area. As the ship touched down, a hush fell over the crowd. A ramp extended from its underside, and 3 figures emerged. They were tall and slender, their skin shimmering with iridescent hues that shifted depending on the angle of light. Large almond-shaped eyes dominated their faces, glowing faintly as they scanned their surroundings. Their movements were fluid and deliberate, exuding an aura of calm authority. At the forefront stood Zixlar, flanked by 2 other Vrillians. He stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he spoke in perfect English. "We mean no harm," he declared, his voice resonating clearly despite its melodic undertones. "But we need your help to survive." The crowd erupted into gasps and murmurs. Journalists shouted questions, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of excitement and disbelief. Generals whispered urgently into radios, while government officials exchanged nervous glances. Cameras flashed endlessly, capturing every detail of the surreal encounter. For the first time in history, humanity was face to face with extraterrestrial life, and it was clear that neither side fully understood what came next. Despite the overwhelming attention, Zixlar remained composed. He explained briefly about the Voidborn, the relentless force that had driven his people from their home planet. He emphasized their desperation, appealing to humanity's compassion and ingenuity. "Together we can fight this threat," he concluded. "But only if you trust us." His words struck a chord with many. While skepticism lingered, there was also a growing sense of determination. This wasn't just about saving the Vrillians. It was about proving that humanity could rise above its divisions and fears to face a greater challenge. As the meeting drew to a close, plans were already underway to begin collaboration. Scientists prepared laboratories to study Vrillian technology, while military strategists began drafting joint defense strategies. Yet not everyone welcomed the newcomers. Protests erupted in several cities, fueled by conspiracy theorists and opportunistic politicians. Some claimed the aliens were hiding ulterior motives, while others argued that humanity shouldn't risk its resources to save a foreign species. Riots broke out in London, Tokyo, and Los Angeles, forcing authorities to deploy troops to maintain order. The tension served as a stark reminder that unity wouldn't come easily, but it also underscored the importance of finding common ground. For Zixlar and his delegation, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Failure meant not only the extinction of the Vrillians, but potentially Earth's downfall as well. Yet as he looked out at the sea of faces, some curious, some fearful, some hopeful, he allowed himself a small measure of optimism. Perhaps, just perhaps, this fragile alliance could pave the way for a brighter future for both species. Little did anyone know the greatest test was yet to come. The days following the historic meeting in Central Park were a blur of activity. Humanity and the Vrillians had taken their first tentative steps toward cooperation, but the road ahead was anything but smooth. Governments around the world scrambled to adapt to this new reality, drafting emergency policies and allocating resources to accommodate their alien guests. Scientists worked tirelessly alongside Vrillian engineers, exchanging knowledge and ideas in an effort to bridge the technological gap between their species. Yet, despite these efforts, tensions simmered just beneath the surface. For every person who welcomed the Vrillians with open arms, there was another who viewed them with suspicion or outright hostility. Conspiracy theories flourished online, fueled by anonymous posts claiming the aliens were secretly planning to enslave humanity. Some fringe groups even began organizing protests, holding signs that read, "Earth for Humans," and chanting slogans like, "No aliens, no lies." These demonstrations grew louder and more aggressive, drawing crowds of angry citizens who felt their leaders were prioritizing extraterrestrials over their own people. In response, governments deployed police and military forces to maintain order. But this only deepened the divide. Videos surfaced on social media showing officers using excessive force against protesters, sparking outrage and accusations of oppression. The situation escalated when a group of demonstrators attempted to storm a temporary Vrillian embassy in Chicago. Armed guards intervened, leading to clashes that left several injured and one protester dead. The incident dominated headlines for days, further polarizing public opinion. Amidst the chaos, ordinary citizens found themselves caught in the crossfire. Some rallied behind the Vrillians, volunteering their time and resources to help integrate the newcomers into society. Families offered spare rooms to house visiting diplomats, while local businesses donated food and supplies to support the growing number of alien representatives stationed on Earth. Artists immortalized the alliance in murals, music, and poetry, celebrating what they saw as humanity's greatest achievement, reaching out to the stars. But not everyone shared this sentiment. In rural areas and small towns, distrust of the Vrillians ran high. Farmers refused to sell produce to alien envoys, shopkeepers turned away Vrillian customers, and schools barred Vrillian children from attending classes. Rumors spread like wildfire, claiming the aliens carried diseases or secret weapons hidden within their shimmering bodies. Even those who initially supported the alliance began to question whether humanity was ready or willing to share its home with another species. Despite these challenges, progress was being made. Joint research facilities sprang up across the globe, where human and Vrillian scientists collaborated on groundbreaking projects. One of the most promising developments came from a lab in Geneva, where researchers successfully adapted Vrillian energy technology to power Earth's electrical grids. The breakthrough sparked celebrations worldwide, offering a glimmer of hope that cooperation could yield tangible benefits for both species. Yet, even as humanity marveled at these advancements, whispers of the Voidborn loomed in the background. Zixlar and his advisors continued to warn Earth's leaders about the impending threat, urging them to prepare for war. They described the Voidborn as shadowy entities capable of consuming entire galaxies, leaving behind nothing but desolation. According to the Vrillians, the Voidborn traveled through space faster than light itself, drawn to fear and despair like moths to a flame. If Earth wanted to survive, it would need to unite, not just with the Vrillians, but with itself. It was during this period of uncertainty that Mia Carter entered the story. A bright and curious 12-year-old girl, Mia lived in New York City with her father, Dr. Elias Carter. Her father had become one of the key figures in facilitating communication between humans and Vrillians, often working late into the night at the United Nations headquarters. Mia, fascinated by the aliens, frequently tagged along when her father visited the Vrillian embassy near Central Park. One sunny afternoon, while exploring the embassy grounds, Mia stumbled upon a restricted area cordoned off with glowing barriers. Ignoring the warning signs, she slipped past the guards and entered a dimly lit chamber filled with ancient artifacts. Among them was a crystal orb, pulsating with an eerie blue light. Drawn to its beauty, Mia reached out and touched it. Instantly, visions flooded her mind. Images of swirling darkness devouring planets, cities crumbling under waves of shadow, and countless beings screaming in terror. She saw the Voidborn up close, their forms shifting and writhing like living smoke. Overwhelmed, Mia stumbled backward, gasping for air. Her sudden cry caught the attention of nearby guards who rushed into the chamber. Recognizing her as Dr. Carter's daughter, they escorted her back to safety without asking questions. But the experience had left its mark. That evening, Mia recounted everything she had seen to her father, who listened intently, his expression growing graver with each word. Realizing the significance of her discovery, he contacted Zixlar immediately. When the Vrillian commander arrived, Mia explained the vision in detail, describing the Voidborn's appearance and behavior. Zixlar exchanged worried glances with his advisors before confirming her account. "This is critical information," he said gravely. "The orb must have contained memories of our encounters with the Voidborn. Somehow it transferred them to you." Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully. "If we can analyze the orb, we might learn more about the Voidborn's weaknesses. It could give us an edge in the fight ahead." Work began immediately to decode the artifact's secrets. Teams of scientists and Vrillian experts pored over the data, searching for patterns or anomalies that could provide insight into defeating the Voidborn. Meanwhile, Mia became an unexpected symbol of hope. News of her encounter spread quickly, inspiring others to embrace the alliance rather than fear it. Interviews with her aired globally, and she soon became a household name. People admired her bravery, seeing her as proof that humanity and the Vrillians could work together to overcome even the greatest threats. As preparations intensified, so did the protests. Anti-alien sentiment reached a boiling point, culminating in a massive rally outside the White House. Thousands of demonstrators gathered, demanding an end to cooperation with the Vrillians. Speakers railed against the government, accusing officials of betraying humanity's interests. Tensions flared when counter-protesters arrived, leading to violent clashes that forced authorities to declare a state of emergency. Inside the White House President Ramirez held an urgent meeting with his cabinet and key advisors, including Dr. Carter and Zixlar. "We're running out of time," Ramirez said, addressing the room. "The Voidborn are closing in, and if we don't act, soon none of us will survive." Zixlar stepped forward, his iridescent skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "Your people must understand that unity is our only chance. Fear will only strengthen the Voidborn. We must stand together, not as humans and Vrillians, but as one." His words resonated deeply with those present, but translating that message to the broader population proved difficult. Public trust in the alliance remained fragile, and misinformation campaigns continued to sow discord. Yet amidst the turmoil, small acts of kindness began to emerge. Strangers helped lost Vrillians find their way in unfamiliar cities. Neighbors invited alien families to dinner, sharing stories and laughter despite language barriers. Slowly but surely bridges were being built. Then, one fateful night, the skies above Earth darkened once again. This time, however, it wasn't the shimmering glow of the star destroyers that captured humanity's attention. It was the ominous shadow spreading across the horizon. The Voidborn had arrived. Panic gripped the planet as reports poured in of strange phenomena occurring worldwide. Cities plunged into darkness as power grids failed. Communication networks collapsed, severing connections between nations. In the skies, monstrous void ships materialized, their jagged forms blotting out the stars. Waves of shadow spilled forth, engulfing everything in their path. Military forces mobilized instantly, launching coordinated attacks against the invaders. Fighter jets streaked through the air, firing missiles at the void ships, but the projectiles passed harmlessly through the shadows. Ground troops fought valiantly, but their weapons proved equally ineffective. It seemed as though the Voidborn were invincible. Back at the Vrillian embassy, Mia stood beside her father and Zixlar, watching the battle unfold on live television. Her heart raced as she realized the truth. The Voidborn fed on fear. Every scream, every cry of despair only made them stronger. Turning to Zixlar, she spoke urgently. "We have to stop being afraid. That's how we beat them." Zixlar nodded, understanding dawning in his luminous eyes. "You're right," he said. "Courage is our weapon." With seconds to spare, a plan was devised. Using the combined resources of Earth and the Vrillians, a global broadcast was launched, transmitting a message of hope to billions. At its center was Mia, standing atop a hill overlooking the battlefield. With cameras rolling, she addressed the world, her voice steady and clear. "We can't let fear control us," she said. "Together, we are stronger than the darkness. Stand tall, stay brave, and show the Voidborn that we won't back down." Her words resonated across continents, uniting humanity. The battle against the Voidborn raged on, and Earth had never felt so small or so united. The initial chaos of the invasion left scars across the planet, both physical and emotional. Cities lay in ruins, power grids were crippled, and millions of lives had been disrupted. Yet amidst the destruction, a remarkable transformation was taking place. Humanity, once divided by borders, politics, and prejudice, now stood shoulder to shoulder with the Vrillians, fighting for survival as one cohesive force. Military forces around the world worked tirelessly alongside their alien counterparts, combining human ingenuity with Vrillian technology to create hybrid weapons capable of challenging the Voidborn. Fighter jets armed with energy cannons soared through the skies, targeting the shadowy void ships that loomed menacingly overhead. Ground troops wielded plasma rifles designed by Vrillian engineers, their firepower finally piercing the impenetrable darkness of the Voidborn's forms. But even with these advancements, the enemy remained relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. In the heart of the conflict, Mia Carter became an unlikely beacon of hope. Her message of courage had spread like wildfire, inspiring soldiers and civilians alike to face the Voidborn without fear. People repeated her words, "Together we are stronger than the darkness," as a mantra, holding on to them like lifelines in moments of despair. Posters bearing her image appeared in shelters and barracks, her determined expression reminding everyone of what they were fighting for. Not just survival, but unity. Yet, Despite the renewed determination, the cost of the war was mounting. Every day brought fresh casualties, both human and Vrillian, and hospitals overflowed with wounded fighters, doctors working around the clock to save lives. Supplies dwindled, forcing rationing measures that tested people's patience and resilience. Some began to question whether victory was truly possible. Could humanity and the Vrillians really stand against such an overwhelming force? Or were they merely delaying the inevitable? Commander Zixlar wrestled with these doubts himself. From the bridge of his Star Destroyer, he watched the battles unfold below, his luminous eyes reflecting the flashes of explosions and bursts of light. He had led his people here seeking refuge, only to drag them into another fight for survival. Guilt weighed heavily on him, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. "We cannot falter," he told his advisors during a tense strategy meeting. "If we lose hope, then the Voidborn win." Dr. Elias Carter echoed this sentiment during a video conference with global leaders. "This isn't just about winning a war," he said firmly. "It's about proving that we can rise above our differences when faced with a common threat. If we give up now, we lose more than just this fight. We lose everything we've worked for." Their resolve inspired others to keep pushing forward. Scientists and engineers labored nonstop in makeshift laboratories, analyzing data from the crystal orb Mia had discovered. They uncovered fragments of information about the Voidborn's nature, piecing together clues about their weaknesses. One breakthrough revealed that the Voidborn fed not only on fear but also on chaos. The more disorder and panic they caused, the stronger they became. Armed with this knowledge, strategists devised plans to minimize panic and maintain order, ensuring that humanity's response remained coordinated and calm. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens found ways to contribute to the war effort. In cities under siege, volunteers formed support networks delivering food and supplies to those trapped in shelters. Artists painted murals depicting scenes of human Vrillian cooperation, transforming bombed-out buildings into symbols of hope. Musicians composed songs that played over emergency broadcasts, lifting spirits and reminding people why they were fighting. Even children joined the cause, organizing fundraisers and writing letters of encouragement to frontline troops. One particularly moving story emerged from Tokyo, where a young boy named Hiroshi Nakamura used his drone-building skills to aid the military. After losing his parents in an early Voidborn attack, Hiroshi channeled his grief into action, modifying his drones to carry medical supplies to hard-to-reach areas. His efforts saved countless lives, earning him recognition as a hero. When asked how he managed to stay brave, Hiroshi simply replied, "Mia said we have to be strong. So I am." As days turned into weeks, the tide of the battle slowly began to shift. The combined forces of Earth and the Vrillians adapted quickly, learning to anticipate the Voidborn's movements and exploit their vulnerabilities. Key victories came in strategic locations: London, where a coordinated assault destroyed a major void ship; Sydney, where ground forces repelled a massive wave of shadows; and Cairo, where scientists deployed experimental devices that disrupted the Voidborn's ability to regenerate. But the turning point came unexpectedly and quietly. It happened in a remote village in Kenya, far from the front lines. There, a group of villagers had gathered in a clearing, refusing to flee despite the Voidborn's approach. Led by an elderly woman named Amina, they formed a circle, holding hands and singing traditional songs of peace and resilience. As the shadows closed in, something extraordinary occurred. The Voidborn hesitated. Their forms wavered, flickering like flames caught in a sudden breeze. Encouraged by this reaction, the villagers sang louder, their voices harmonizing in defiance of fear. News of the incident reached military commanders, who immediately sent researchers to investigate. What they discovered was astonishing. The Voidborn's connection to fear and chaos made them vulnerable to acts of collective courage and unity. When large groups of people stood together, unafraid, the Voidborn struggled to sustain themselves. This revelation changed everything. Armed with this new understanding, humanity and the Vrillians launched a bold initiative, Operation Unity Wave. The plan involved organizing simultaneous gatherings in cities and towns worldwide, where people would come together to demonstrate their bravery and solidarity. These events would serve as focal points, weakening the Voidborn's grip and allowing military forces to strike decisive blows. Preparations for Operation Unity Wave were frantic, but effective. Social media campaigns encouraged participation, while governments provided logistical support to ensure safety. In New York City, Central Park was transformed into a massive gathering space, complete with stages for speeches and performances. Similar setups were replicated in Paris, Moscow, Beijing, and dozens of other locations. Flyers were distributed, urging people to bring friends, family, and neighbors, anyone willing to stand against the darkness. On the designated day, millions of people poured into designated areas, their faces illuminated by candles and lanterns. Children carried signs reading "No Fear," while adults held banners proclaiming Earth and Vrillians united. Musicians played uplifting melodies and speakers delivered impassioned addresses, rallying the crowds. At the center of it all stood Mia, flanked by her father and Commander Zixler. Speaking through microphones linked to global broadcasts, she addressed the assembled masses. "We've shown the Voidborn that we're not afraid," she declared, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "Now let's show them that we're unstoppable. Together we will drive them back." Her words ignited a roar of approval, the sound echoing across continents. As the sun set, the gatherings grew quieter, transitioning into moments of silent reflection. People clasped hands, closed their eyes, and focused on thoughts of hope and unity. Above them, the Voidborn faltered, their forms wavering as if caught in a storm. Seizing the opportunity, military forces launched a final offensive. Star destroyers unleashed concentrated beams of energy, targeting weakened void ships. Ground troops advanced in synchronized waves, driving back the remaining shadows. Explosions lit up the sky as the Voidborn disintegrated, retreating into the void from which they had come. When the last shadow vanished, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. For a moment, no one moved, unsure if the nightmare was truly over. Then, slowly, cheers erupted, from soldiers, civilians, and Vrillians alike. Tears streamed down faces as people embraced one another, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. In the aftermath, Earth began the long process of rebuilding. Governments collaborated to restore infrastructure, while humanitarian organizations worked to heal the wounds inflicted by the war. The Vrillians, having proven their worth as allies, were welcomed as permanent residents of Earth. Cities adapted to accommodate their unique needs, and schools introduced programs to teach children about interstellar cooperation. For Mia, life returned to some semblance of normalcy, but she knew nothing would ever be the same. She had witnessed firsthand the power of unity and courage, lessons she vowed to carry with her for the rest of her life. As she walked through Central Park one evening, now adorned with statues commemorating the Alliance, she paused to look up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Voidborn still existed, but so did the promise of a brighter future. And in that moment, Mia smiled, knowing that humanity and the Vrillians had taken their first steps toward becoming something greater than either species could have achieved alone. The war against the Voidborn had ended, but its echoes lingered long after the last shadow dissolved into the void. Earth was forever changed, not just by the scars etched into its cities and landscapes, but by the profound shift in humanity's understanding of itself and its place in the universe. The alliance with the Vrillians had proven that even amidst fear and uncertainty, unity could triumph over despair. Yet as life slowly returned to normal, questions remained about what this new world would look like and whether peace would truly last. In the weeks following the victory, celebrations erupted across the globe. Parades filled the streets of major cities with floats adorned in both human flags and shimmering replicas of Vrillian insignias. Fireworks lit up night skies once dominated by the ominous glow of void ships, their bursts of color symbolizing hope reborn. Speeches were delivered from podiums around the world, praising the courage of soldiers, scientists, and ordinary citizens who had stood together against an unimaginable threat. At the United Nations headquarters in New York City, a special ceremony honored Mia Carter, Commander Zixlar, and Dr. Elias Carter for their pivotal roles in uniting humanity and the Vrillians. Mia stood on stage alongside her father and Zixlar, her heart swelling as she looked out at the sea of faces before her. People of all ages, races, and backgrounds cheered, waving signs that read "Courage Wins" and "Earth and Vrillians Forever." It was surreal to think that just months ago, she had been an ordinary girl exploring a forbidden chamber in the Vrillian embassy. Now she was being hailed as a hero, a symbol of resilience and unity. When it was her turn to speak, Mia stepped forward, gripping the microphone tightly. Her voice trembled slightly, but she steadied herself, remembering the lessons she had learned during the battle. "This wasn't my fight alone," she began, glancing at her father and then at Zixlar. "It was ours, all of us. We proved that when we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome." Her words resonated deeply, drawing thunderous applause. Afterward, reporters swarmed her, asking how it felt to be responsible for saving 2 worlds. Mia smiled shyly, deflecting the attention. "I didn't do anything special," she said. "Everyone did their part. That's what made the difference." While the celebrations continued, the process of rebuilding was far from easy. Entire neighborhoods lay in ruins, their buildings reduced to rubble by void-borne attacks. Power grids and communication networks needed extensive repairs, leaving many communities without electricity or internet access for weeks. Governments worked tirelessly to allocate resources, but tensions occasionally flared as some regions accused others of hoarding aid. Despite these challenges, volunteers poured in from every corner of the planet, determined to help those in need. One particularly inspiring effort came from a group called Global Hands, a coalition of human and Vrillian engineers who traveled to disaster zones to rebuild infrastructure. Using advanced Vrillian technology, they constructed sustainable energy systems powered by the same energy orbs that had saved Earth's power grids during the war. These innovations not only restored electricity but also provided cleaner, more efficient alternatives to traditional methods. In rural areas where resources were scarce, Vrillian farmers shared techniques for growing crops in harsh conditions, ensuring food security for struggling communities. As physical wounds healed, so too did emotional ones, but healing took time. Therapists and counselors worked with survivors of the conflict, helping them cope with trauma and loss. Support groups formed in towns and cities, offering safe spaces for people to share their experiences. For many, the presence of the Vrillians became a source of comfort. Their calm demeanor and empathetic nature helped bridge cultural divides and foster trust between species. Yet, not everyone welcomed the changes brought by the alliance. Anti-Vrillian sentiment persisted in certain circles, fueled by opportunistic politicians and media outlets eager to exploit lingering fears. Some argued that sharing resources with the aliens put undue strain on already fragile economies, while others claimed the Vrillians posed a hidden threat, waiting for the right moment to seize control. Protests erupted sporadically, though they were smaller and less violent than before. Authorities responded with increased security measures, but also with outreach programs aimed at addressing misconceptions and fostering dialogue. Commander Zixlar faced these challenges head-on, traveling to various locations to meet with skeptics and reassure them of his people's intentions. During one such visit to a small town in Texas, he addressed a crowd of wary residents, his glowing eyes meeting theirs with unwavering sincerity. "We are not here to take your home," he said. "We are here because you gave us a second chance, a chance to live, to heal, and to grow together. Let us honor that gift." His words struck a chord, softening some hearts and opening doors to further conversation. Over time, resistance waned as people witnessed firsthand the benefits of cooperation. Schools introduced curriculums teaching children about Vrillian culture and history, fostering mutual respect from a young age. Art exhibits showcased collaborative works by human and Vrillian creators, blending styles and traditions in ways that captivated audiences worldwide. Meanwhile, scientific advancements continued to flourish, Joint research facilities expanded, producing breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and space exploration. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries came when Vrillian scientists developed a device capable of detecting void-borne activity light years away. Dubbed the Void Sentinel, it served as an early warning system, giving humanity and the Vrillians precious time to prepare should the void-borne ever return. Plans were also underway to construct a fleet of hybrid starships, combining human engineering with Vrillian technology to explore distant galaxies and forge alliances with other civilizations. For Dr. Elias Carter, these developments marked a new chapter in his career and in humanity's journey. Once a solitary astrophysicist studying anomalies in space, he now found himself at the forefront of interstellar diplomacy. He worked closely with Zixlar and other Vrillian leaders to draft treaties and establish protocols for future interactions between species. Together, they envisioned a future where Earth and the Vrillians weren't just allies, but partners in shaping the destiny of the galaxy. As for Mia, her role evolved as well. No longer content to simply inspire others, she sought ways to contribute actively to the alliance. With her father's guidance, she enrolled in advanced science courses, dreaming of one day joining the teams working on interstellar projects. She also became an advocate for youth involvement in global initiatives, encouraging young people to use their voices and talents to make a difference. Her message was simple yet powerful. If I can do it, so can you. The bond between humans and Vrillians deepened with each passing day. Festivals celebrating both cultures became annual traditions, drawing crowds eager to experience new foods, music, and art forms. Interspecies friendships blossomed, leading to marriages and even blended families. Children born to these unions, referred to affectionately as starborn, became living symbols of the alliance, embodying the best qualities of both species. But perhaps the most significant change was the shift in perspective. Humanity no longer saw itself as alone in the universe. Instead, it embraced its role as part of something greater, a vast tapestry of life, stretching across stars and galaxies. This newfound awareness inspired countless individuals to pursue careers in science, diplomacy, and exploration, driven by the belief that the possibilities were limitless. Still, the memory of the Voidborn loomed large, a reminder that peace was precious and fragile. Regular drills prepared populations for potential threats, while diplomatic efforts sought to unite neighboring planets under a common banner of cooperation. Though the Voidborn had retreated, their existence underscored the importance of vigilance and unity. Years later, as Mia stood on the observation deck of a hybrid starship preparing for its maiden voyage, she reflected on how far they had come. Below her, Earth sparkled like a jewel against the infinite blackness of space. Beside her, Zixlar gazed outward, his iridescent skin catching the light of distant stars. "You've done well, Mia," he said softly. "Your courage has changed everything." She smiled, feeling a surge of pride and responsibility. "We're just getting started," she replied. "There's so much more to discover." As the ship launched into the cosmos, carrying representatives of both species toward uncharted horizons, one thing was clear. The story of Earth and the Vrillians was only beginning. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. And as they ventured into the unknown, they carried with them the lessons of courage, unity, and hope, lessons that would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. For the first time in history, humanity looked to the stars not with fear, but with wonder. They were no longer alone, and they never would be again.